Hi, folks, and I just wanted to remind you once again that our fall Zazen retreat at the Angel City Zen Center is available online for anybody who wants to join it, and it is this weekend, November 7th and 8th, 2020, and you are all invited to join, so please be there. I'll even be giving Dokusan individual interviews with as many people as we can cram in there. And go to azzc.org as well for all the other things we're doing at the Angel City Zen Center every Monday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, and every Saturday. So be there. Okay, today I have been working on my book, which is what I've been doing. Anytime you've been tuning into these videos for the past, I don't know how many months, that's what I've been doing, is working on a new book. And this new book it's about ethics, because I think ethics is a really, really important issue, and always has been and always will be. And I wanted to make a book specifically about ethics. But as I started writing a book about Buddhist ethics, I realized that Buddhist ethics were inextricably, that's a nice word, tied to the Buddhist non-dual understanding of life, the universe, and everything. So you can't explain Buddhist ethics without explaining non-dualism, which I don't even like the word non-dualism, but it's the word all the kids are using for this stuff. Anyway, the chapters I was working on today were real intense. Like, I'm really going, oh my god, this is a hard chapter to work on. And then I got to the next one, I was going, oh my god, this is a hard chapter to work on too. And one of the reasons they're hard is I'm trying to take what I think to most people is a really, really hard thing to understand and make it easier to understand. But the problem is you have to kind of go beyond intellectual understanding. So there's no way to explain this stuff. It's just, you just run up against a brick wall. You can't explain it. Literally, you can't explain it. But I'm trying to do that, and that I've been working on. Somehow tied in with this is a quote from Kobun Chino Otagawa Roshi, my first teacher's teacher, that I'm not even sure if I'm going to use it in the book. I used part of it in my book, There Is No God, and He Is Always With You. And I will put a link to it below if you're watching on YouTube or Patreon. I'll give you the link for it. One of the problems with dealing with quotes is they're always taken out of context. And taken out of context means different things, but a lot of people think it's simply just taking out of the other words that surround it. So if you read the other words that surround the quote, then you'll understand it. It doesn't work that way, at least, especially not with Kobun's talks, because he never actually wrote anything. He might have written a few things. I think he wrote poetry, but he didn't write a book about Zen. He didn't sit down there and type a book about Zen. So any of the books that you find, or any of the stuff that you find online by Kobun Chino, are transcripts of talks. And sometimes they're very faithful transcripts, and sometimes they're transcripts that somebody has worked on to try to make them more smooth and easier to read. The one I'm taking right now, I believe, is probably a pretty faithful transcript because of the context I found it in. But it's still weird, and I've posted it online a couple of times, and I have used it in a book, as I said. So I thought I would read it aloud to you with a bit more context than what you got in the book and the online post, and then see what I could say about it. But this is totally improvised, so I don't know what I'm going to say about it, but I'm going to read it to you first. So here we go. It starts off with a question from a student. Kobun has been explaining Zazen to some group of students, and one student says, "For years I always preferred to sit by myself, and every time I had to sit with a group, it was always more difficult. I had problems that I didn't have by myself." Kobun answers, and this is the part where this is the weird part. Kobun says, "The difficulty wasn't sitting together. The difficulty was yourself. Wanting to be alone is impossible. When you become really alone, you notice you are not alone. In other words, we stop our vigorous effort toward ideal purity. Purity is just a process. After purity, dry simplicity comes, where almost no more life is there, and your sensation is that you are not existing anymore. Still, you are existing there. You flip into the other side of nothing, where you discover everybody is waiting for you. Before that, you are living together like that. day, sun, moon, stars, and food. Everything is helping you, but you are all blocked off, a closed system. You just see things from inside toward the outside and act with incredible systematic logical dynamics, and you think everything is all right. When noise or a chaotic situation comes, you want to leave that situation to be alone. But there is no such aloneness. It is very important to experience the complete negation of yourself, which brings you to the other side of nothing. People experience that in many ways. You go to the other side of nothing, and you are held by the hand of the Absolute. You see yourself as part of the Absolute, so you have no more insistence of self as yourself. You can speak of self as no self upon the Absolute. Real existence is only Absolute. So Kobun does something that you don't hear a lot of Zen teachers do, which is he talks about the Absolute. And it's kind of... different Zen teachers handle it different ways. But this idea of the Absolute is usually omitted from Zen philosophy. It's kind of there in the background, but they'll kind of traipse around it. Dogen does this by calling it inmo. Inmo means it or something. He will say, it's something. You are tools which something uses in this universe in 10 directions, in all directions. And he says that, weird things like that. So to understand yourself is to understand that. Kobun likes words like the Absolute and God, even. And so it gets a little different in its form of expression. But held by the hand of the Absolute, that is a really beautiful image that I think I get what he means by that. But it's the kind of image that my first teacher, Tim, who was Kobun's student, would use. I never heard him use exactly that particular expression, but he would say things along those lines, and probably he got that from Kobun. Wanting to be alone is impossible. So when you are alone, you realize you are not alone. And I talked about this in my video about loneliness. Somebody sent me a quote that he couldn't find the exact source from, but he said he comes from a Sufi master. And he said, God, this is what the quote is, God is a mirror that shattered itself so that it could look at itself. That's a really interesting image. Dogen also talks about a shattered mirror. And Dogen's mention of a shattered mirror was made a lot more powerful to me when I was working on, I don't know if it was Don't Be a Jerk or it came from Beyond Zen, but one of the Dogen books I actually used that quote in, and as I was researching it, I realized that a mirror in Dogen's time was not made of polished glass, or that polished stuff that they put behind glass like our mirrors are today. It was made of polished metal. So you get a piece of metal, hard metal, and polish it until it was shiny enough to be used as a mirror. And that's what he was talking about, smashing. So we can easily imagine, Henry Rollins smashing the mirror on that cover of I think it's Damaged, the Black Flag album, which I heard he didn't actually smash that mirror. That was a fake picture because his hand would have been all cut up. But anyway, you can kind of imagine it like that, but that's not what Dogen is imagining. Dogen is imagining this impossible event of smashing a metal mirror into pieces. Like, how would you even do that? It can't be done. I don't know how you could smash a piece of metal into pieces and shatter it like that. But that's the image that he gives. But that's kind of a way of understanding that you can never be alone, because the smashed mirror can never be alone. There's always the other mirrors reflecting it. Everything is reflecting everything else. So we're never really alone. But this idea of flipping to the other side of nothing, I just love that imagery. But honestly, I think I understand what he means, but I don't know if I could explain it any better. It reminds me of some of the experiences I've had through Zazen of kind of looking out upon the world and realizing, oh yeah, I really am looking out upon myself. I'm not looking out at a world that is out there while I am separate from it in here, inside, observing it. That's not the way it works. Everything is an extension of this one thing, which is fully conscious and fully alive. All of it. Absolutely all of it. And when you realize that, you realize you can't be alone. So if you have a chaotic situation and you retreat to your room, which is something I do, so I do that quite often. It's a less chaotic situation. It's more manageable, but you aren't alone. You're never alone. Like it's like that album. Was it Ian Hunter? You're never alone with a schizophrenic. I don't know, but I just thought of that. But anyway, you're never alone, and wanting to be alone is impossible. And you can speak of self on the basis of no self. This is something else he says. And that sounds like that guy saying, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. But you can speak of self in terms of no self, which is an interesting thing because you are both self and non-self. In one sense, I am absolutely me. No doubt about it, and that is important, and that is something I bring to the world, is this individuality that I have, this specific point of view on the universe. And by sharing that with others, I can probably help others. So that's important. But there is no self here. There's no absolute me, immutable me inside of this body, me. That's the wrong way of conceiving of things, even though in another sense it's not aliens, but it's aliens. I don't know. That's all I can say about that quote right now, at least for today. But I hope that's something, and I hope that's interesting, because I think it's a great quote. Anyway, if you want me to work on more quotes, you can send me a donation at hardcorezen.info/donate. That is how I make my living, and that's how I keep buying Ziggy food and buying my girlfriend food and everybody food and stuff like that. So that helps me out a lot. I really appreciate your donations. If you're having financial difficulties, though, don't donate to me, because I'm hanging on by the skin of my teeth, and it's because of you nice people who do continue to give me donations that I do that. So thank you very much. See you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye.